Oh my God, this course this course was so boring. This is one of the most boring courses I think I've ever taken in my entire life. I went to college for cybersecurity and attended one of the top programs in America. In fact, this cybersecurity program was thoroughly vetted by the NSA, or the National Security Agency in the United States, and given their stamp of approval. At the time, there was only, I think, one other college in the nation that could say that. However, I learned practically nothing relevant to working in cybersecurity. So you may be wondering, how is that possible? In this video, I'm gonna walk you through my entire 4-year curriculum at Penn State, class by class, and we'll do a deep dive. Oh man, I'm actually pretty excited to make this video. This one's gonna be pretty fun going down memory lane on this one. Where do I start? First of all, I took a lot of, and everyone that's been through college, they'll know what I'm talking about here, a lot of BS classes that they called electives, right? So just to give you an idea of what some of these are, and they're supposed to be to expand your horizons, to give you a well-rounded education, right? That's the marketing fluff. I took classes like communications, which is like nothing to do with anything that I do today, music history, what else? Philosophy, and the worst one, I took a class called walking. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. I went to class and we just walked around the campus for like 45 minutes and then we left. That's literally the class that I, going to school 4 years, paying $300K in student loans, and yeah, that was part of the $300K, was a class on walking. Oh yeah, and there was a class on basketball as well. We just showed up every day and we played basketball. That was pretty fun. Pretty fun, pretty irrelevant. But let's jump into the classes that were my major classes, right? The ones that actually taught me cybersecurity, because this was one of the best programs in the entire nation for cybersecurity. The NSA, guys, they signed off on it, so you know it had to be good. I had to get a very good education. Well, let's take a look. I have all of the ones that I remember that I took, all the classes that I remember that I took from my major, and I was looking at some of the syllabuses for your, what's it called? Like your major required classes or whatever, to kind of cross-check that. I may have missed a class or two, so if I did and you're going to Penn State, it might have changed though too, because you got to keep in mind, this was like when I took these classes at this point, that was like, it was like about 12 years ago or so. So some of these, I'm going to be honest, a little bit blurry for me, but I'm going to do the best I can to recall what I can. And I can also bring up some other classes that I don't necessarily know what number it is, but I could tell you, like, I had some experiences, like one interesting one right now that I'll tell you guys is that I had one class where they brought in this like Chinese intern to run the class or something. And this guy was like super smart. He was like doing car hacking and all this stuff, but he made the course so hard. The course wasn't on car hacking, by the way. It was just on like, I don't even remember really at this point, but he made the class so difficult that 80% of the class failed at the end of the semester. So they're like, screw it, everyone passes. We're gonna grade on a curve so high that everyone just passed. So I remember like coming down to like there's a pass drop deadline for these, right? And what it is like, there's a deadline where you're allowed to drop the class. Like if for whatever reason, like you feel like you're not going to be able to pass the class and you don't want it to affect your GPA, then you can actually drop the class and it'll completely drop off your schedule. And it will be as if you weren't enrolled in the class ever. And so when that period came around, people were panicking. And I knew for a fact, talking to different people in the class, like almost everyone was failing that one. I really wish I could remember which number this one was. And so many people dropped the class, and I was just thinking, you know what? I'm going to YOLO this one. I think I should YOLO this one. I'm not going to drop the class, because if everyone I know is saying like they're failing the class, they're not going to fail the whole class. They're going to grade on a curve, and you're going to boost everyone's grade up. And I think I was like really close. I think I had like a C in the class. So I'm like, if I have a C in this class and most people have an F, I'm going to have a pretty good grade. And the boost was so high, I had an A. I got an A in the class. Actually, just for everyone's information, I ended up graduating with a major GPA of a 4.0. So I got an A on like all of these classes. I found it like super easy. That was the other gripe I have with these classes. They were super easy. And that's all fine and well. Like, yeah, your classes should be easy. But hey, like if we think about, at the time that was amazing. But if we look back and be like, well, it's supposed to prepare you for the field. It should be challenging in like real world. Yeah, it wasn't that at all. But yeah, that was just an interesting, experience I had with one of these classes. Let's jump into what I have on screen here now. So we'll start with this one, IST 110. Let's see. What do I remember about this? I remember this one was like super overly simplistic. And I was almost wondering, like, how can we use technology to organize and integrate human enterprises? How can technology help people and organizations adapt rapidly and creatively? It's basically like, how are computers more efficient than paper? It's like, yeah, I didn't need to spend $300,000 going to college to be told this. You know what I mean? What can we do about information overload? And all this stuff is just so theoretical. Like every single one of these classes, that's one of the biggest gripes that I have with this stuff is it's so overly theoretical where it didn't have to be. Like you could have some interactive stuff, maybe in a BS class like this, you can't, but there's a lot of these courses where they could have done something interactive, but they just didn't. It was just like so fill in the blank, multiple choice, check the box kind of slop that we see in a lot of these classes. But yeah, this one was a complete joke. It was super easy. Then if we go to IST 210, organization of data. Okay, this is actually one that I would say some positive things about. This one was all about databases. They actually did teach me databases. Like they taught me about the concept of primary keys and foreign keys and stuff like that and like the kind of design of databases. But did I really need a semester-long course on databases? I don't think I did. I think like you could have had this in a course and had it cover it for a week, cover it for a few days, and that would have been enough. It was like way too in-depth, and it's like that's another gripe that I have with a lot of these courses. You go really in the weeds about something that's not very relevant to the job. Like, do I need to know how to like create a database and design a database as someone getting into cybersecurity? No, not really. I just need to know like how to use databases, how to use SQL, which they did teach me, to be fair, in this, but a lot of the teaching was like, hey, like use this other website that will teach you SQL. You know what I mean? But yeah, they did teach me some relevant stuff here, but a lot of like unrelevant stuff too. The majority of it was not relevant, unfortunately, and that is a recurring theme with a lot of these courses. IST 220, let's see here. This one doesn't really stand out to me too much. Let's see. Computer networking and telecommunications and applications and systems. Yeah, I think this is just another like kind of generic like networking course or whatever. Like I would say, again, is similar to IST 210 in that like such a small percentage of it was relevant. It could have been taught in a much more condensed format. Again, like if you're hired on in cybersecurity, are you going to be tasked with planning, designing, and building wireless networks? No, you're not. So like, do you really need a whole course on that? Semester-long course. Keep in mind, these semesters are like 4 months, right? Like what, August to December, August, September, October, November, like 5 months, like 4 to 5 months. Do I need a 4 to 5 month course on how to do something that I'm never going to need to do on the job? Yeah, I probably don't. We'll learn practice skills related to HTML and Python. Yeah, they taught me HTML. I guess that's kind of relevant. And I don't know if I needed to pay $300K for that, but oh yeah, we got to use the Linux terminal. That is the one good thing I'll say about this course. I do remember that now. We did use the Linux terminal, and this was my first experience using Linux. So that is like probably the best positive thing that I could say about the course. IST 440W. This was like one of those capstone courses. It was like everyone split off into teams of like 4 to 6 students. What did we learn? What did we do our project on? I honestly can't tell you. I cannot tell you. I have no idea. I forget. It was a joke of a course. It was like one of the ones where it was like super easy. They just give you this task. You can kind of like fudge it or whatever. I think you work with like, you're supposed to work with another business and implement some like IT stuff or whatever. And someone knew someone, and basically someone just did the whole thing for us. And then I don't even remember the exact details. What I would do anytime there was like group work, what I would do, here's my trick. I don't know how useful this is anymore now that the Zoomers are really good with like, making TikTok videos. But back then, at least when I used to take these group courses, or, these classes where we did group projects, no one would know how to do video editing. So I would just be the one that would be like, hey, everyone like record your file, send it to me. I'll put together the whole edit. You guys don't have to worry. I got you. And I would like turn out like a pretty sick edit. And everyone else, like all the other teams, like their edits would be so shitty. Like they would have like such shitty videos because they had no idea how to do any of the editing. But I did. And I would literally not have, actually I would take on the project. That's how I first learned how to video edit, actually, was these group projects. I would know nothing about editing, but I would just say like, hey, I'll do the editing, because I knew that if I did editing, I could like coast and I could be lazy on the rest of the project. So that was my like, my cybersecurity, programmer efficiency kind of mindset of like, how can I do the least work possible and get the most credit possible, right? That's what I would do. So I would do the editing, and I wouldn't even know how to video edit. I would Google how to cut, how to add a text on screen. I would have to Google everything on how to do every single thing. That's how I first learned how to video edit. But I would put a lot of effort into that. I would have a sick edit, and then I wouldn't have to do any of learning objective stuff they're trying to force me to learn that I found boring. Yes, that was that. Next one is IST 451. This one I do kind of remember. I remember the instructor was pretty cool for this one. Pretty cool guy. Yeah, it was just another generic, to be honest, it was another generic networking course with like a bunch of slop and buzzwords and stuff. Yeah, it's not very memorable to me, to be honest. I didn't learn anything in particular that was too useful, I don't think. I think we learned about like cabling and, a router versus a switch, like the network layers, right? Like the switch is on, this network layer, and the router is on this network layer, and this device. Yeah, it is kind of like that. I guess like some of that can be useful for an interview a little bit, but we learned it was a lot of theory and a lot of like historical information about, the first worm that was ever discovered on the internet, did this, and this was Stuxnet, and read this article about Stuxnet and all this stuff. It was kind of like that. And a little bit about cryptography and stuff too. IST 454, this one was on, this was the digital forensics one. This could have been really cool, because I would love to do digital forensics hands-on, but they didn't do any hands-on digital forensics. I guess they can't give us like malware and stuff. That'd be cool if they let us play around with some malware in a controlled environment or something. I guess that's too risky. But no, it was just like all pure theoretical. And I remember the quizzes on this were so BS. So they were all open book quizzes that we had. So they would assign us to read a chapter of the book, and then we'd have a quiz in class that day on that chapter. But the kicker was you were allowed to do open book, open notes. So what I did was I went out and I bought the ebook, the Kindle version, so that I didn't have to read any of the chapters. And what I did was I just did a Control F, typed in some keywords and press enter, and then I just got the answer immediately. And that was allowed in the course by the term. So I completely coasted through this one. That was what I would do through all of these. I would find like the most efficient way to coast through, doing the least work possible, and I would just like BS my entire way through all of these courses, and I would get A's on everything. So that was my trick for that one. So yeah, maybe you guys didn't expect this to turn into like a tips and tricks of how to BS your way through college, but if any of you guys are in college, these are some of my secrets. That's what I did for this one. Oh my God, this course was so boring. This is one of the most boring courses I think I've ever taken in my entire life. This was so incredibly dry, and this was like a pure like security and risk analysis course. So it's very policy heavy and very dry. Even the instructor, he was like this German guy that had like this monotone German accent. Obviously you got new instructors and stuff now. Some of these guys I do recognize. So that means some of these guys, they've been teaching the course for like, I don't even know how long before I came there, but we're talking probably decades at this point. But yeah, this one was so boring. Oh man, this is so painfully boring. But yeah, it was one that I found, that if I don't even remember my strategy for getting an A on this course. I think I just took mind map notes and I like memorized them. What I would do for every exam that I had, if it was an open book, open note, which most of them were not open book, open notes, that was just that one course. What I would typically do for this one, I remember, was very heavy on the multiple choice exams. They were very dry, like memorize it type things. I would do like my pure regurgitation strategy would be I would just coast the entire semester. I would hardly do anything other than the assignments. I would BS through the assignments. I would do them. When it came to the exam, I would study the night before. The night before, I would skim through all the chapters and I would make notes on all the stuff and go back through all my notes that I took from the slides. I would just make notes and I would read through it and I would memorize everything. And then I would just walk into the exam and I would get an A on the exam. And then a few days later, I would forget everything. So it was completely useless for my learning, because when you do that strategy, you'll pass all your exams, you'll get really good grades on your exams, but you won't stick any of that in your long-term memory. You'll forget a day or two later, literally that fast. So that was my strategy. That's what I did for all of the exams and all my college classes. Then SRA 111, this one, this one is so unmemorable that I have no idea. I will say there's one course, I'm not sure which one it was. It's one of the SRA courses that we actually did do hands-on stuff. I was so happy. There was one day we had a lab where we got to do hands-on pen testing. But here's the kicker. On that day, we got to use Nmap and all the stuff, but on that day, they gave us Backtrack Linux, and it was the most outdated stuff possible. It was super outdated, but that was my first time touching anything pen testing related, and I remember thinking, this is cool. This is what I want to do. That was my first kind of foray into all that. And we also had SRA 211, which this one was, this one was crime and terrorism. And I can't believe they still teach this in 2026. This seems so outdated. Let's just scroll down. I'll read a little bit of this so you can see what word salad this is, right? SRA 211, Terrorism and Counterterrorism, is an introductory course with a broad focus on terrorism and crime in relation to security and risk analysis. The course introduces SRA majors and other interested students to nature, scope, seriousness of security threats posed by terrorists and criminal activity. It's just do you need a course on this? I don't know. It seems like a really niche thing, right? If you want to get into specific government job or something where you're hunting down terrorists and stuff. But I mean, are we really hunting down terrorists so much anymore? I don't know. At least I don't hear much about that in the news at this point. But a lot of this course felt like we're talking a lot about 9/11 in 2008, which was fairly old at that point. Now it seems in the dinosaur age. I don't know why this is still a required course for everyone. It should be if you want to go down a certain specialization, maybe you could argue it should be required. But again, it was just another theory slop, multiple choice type of course. SRA 231, this one, decision theory, another one that's I in one ear out the other. I don't remember it all, but yeah, if we read this, do you need a course? Do you need to spend $300K on a course on decision theory? That is just such a waste of time. I feel it's just so theoretical BS. I don't know. I hate this type of stuff where it's just so incredibly theoretical. I mean, if we just read some of this, right? Combines theoretical foundations of decisioning with the practical applications of structured analytic techniques. It's just a bunch of buzzwords. What the hell does that even mean? It's just a bunch of buzzword slop. So yeah, that's the problem that I have with a lot of these courses. What do you guys think about your cybersecurity course? Let me know down below. If you want to put all this BS to the side, not waste 4 years of your life, possibly go into 30K in debt, or hopefully, God forbid, if you're like me, 300K in student loans. If you want to avoid that and you want to actually learn cybersecurity, the hands-on stuff that you would actually be doing on the job, so that you don't have to be like me and have to start in IT first and spend all this time learning on your own after getting a degree, and then eventually going down that long path, eventually get into cybersecurity. Well, then check the link down in the description below. And, I have over 10 years experience doing this stuff, and I've helped hundreds of students, and I can pretty much guarantee I can help you as well. So if that sounds good, then go down in the description below and book a call, and we can get you on the path.